Hello, well, we are here. We'd like to welcome you today to the 4 pillars of marketing, how to use them to grow your practice. I have Christy Gusick with me, my business partner.
Hello, everyone.
And we're just so happy to have you here. With no further ado, I'd like to just get started and move into a little bit of background. I think we have quite a number of you who have been to our webinars before, and if that's the case, we thank you for coming back. For those of you who have not attended one of our webinars, I just want to do a brief introduction, and I'll get through this quickly. The bottom line here is that I was a law firm marketing director for a number of years. I started my own firm about 20 years ago. And as you probably know, Christy and I focus primarily in the areas of working with lawyers and financial services professionals. So in addition to the business, I currently serve as vice chair of the executive committee for the Lawyers Board of Professional Responsibility. So what does that mean? It means that I'm sitting on sort of the high court of the attorney disciplinary system in the state of Minnesota. So it's a very interesting position. I do a lot of writing. I write a monthly column for Attorney at Law magazine, and I'm now doing 7 columns for the ABA's GP Solo e-report. In addition, I really enjoy teaching at some local law schools, and that gives me great satisfaction knowing that I might be able to just help a few attorneys realize before they pass the bar what they're in for when it comes to marketing their practice. So you'll notice over on your dashboard, you'll see that there are different materials that you can download. This is a relatively new feature, so I just want to mention that you should be able to just click on each one of those and then download them. There are 5 of them there, and I'll talk about these as I go through the presentation, but included in the materials you have a blog posting worksheet, a 2017 sales pipeline, a tip sheet that I developed on 40 marketing ideas you can do in 5 minutes or less, because I work with a lot of attorneys and they're always way too busy to do marketing. So that's why I developed this piece. You can literally use it as a checklist, set it beside your desk and plow through these great ideas. And then finally, I included a LinkedIn checklist for you because we are going to be talking about social media, and also included a brand new tip sheet on how to conduct advanced searches. As you know, Google changed its interface a couple of months ago, and some of the things you thought you knew how to do, you don't anymore. So one of the important things is advanced search, so I thought you might appreciate having a how-to there. So this is our agenda. This is the agenda for today's webinar. We're going to be talking about a term that I coined many years ago. My goal at the time was to make marketing as understandable and relatable as possible for all of the lawyers that I worked with, and then finally for my clients. So I've been able to boil down what I think are really the most important considerations for you as you look at implementing your marketing plan. So it goes without saying that each and every one of you need to have a strategy. You need to know who you're marketing to. You need to have some objectives that you've set for yourself. You need to know the audiences, industry groups that you want to get in front of. So assuming you have your marketing plan in place, and if you don't, there's a good webinar that we did in December on how to develop your 2017 marketing plan. So I encourage you to take that step if you haven't already. But now we're talking about implementation. Now that you have your marketing plan, these are the 4 pillars of marketing. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about the things that you can do to retain and grow these relationships that you currently have, how to leverage the best of what you have. Second, we're going to be talking about new business development, which is always a fun subject because there are a lot of professionals out there, if you can believe it or not, that don't like to do sales. So we're going to talk about some ways to demystify that process for professionals. We're also going to touch on best practices for increasing your name recognition and awareness. There's some wonderful new tools out there. I say new, but it's hard to believe that LinkedIn has been around since, I think, 2007, and yet we're all so much a part of all these sites, they feel like they've been around forever. But we're going to talk about the things that you can do to cost effectively increase your name recognition. And then finally, how important it is to create targeted communications. not to just send blast communications to large groups of people. And for each of the bullets, I have a slide. So we're going to get through this in a very timely fashion. I promise we'll be done by 11:45, if not sooner. So let's jump into pillar number 1, retain and grow your existing relationships. So let's first talk about client satisfaction. There are a lot of things that you can do to keep your finger on the pulse of how satisfied your clients are. One tool that we've used with a number of our clients is what we call an end of case or an end of matter survey. We set this up on a secure version of SurveyMonkey. We hide the name SurveyMonkey, so it's very legit and above board, but basically what we're doing is we're asking clients while we're still fresh in their mind to review. How did we do on your behalf? Were you happy with how we communicated? How did you rate the people that you worked with? The attorney, the legal assistant, the financial advisor. How did you rate your experience with us overall? And the cool thing about SurveyMonkey is that it compiles everything for you. So we have a client right now who has, I think, 50 different end of matter surveys that their clients have completed, and they can run a report that compiles everything together so they can really keep their finger on the pulse of what clients value and appreciate when they work with them. Christy and I have been doing this like crazy a lot, and that is asking your clients to review you on Google. Google is obviously a very, very important search platform. You have Bing and Yahoo out there, but we think Google is still the king or queen of internet searches. So it's something that we think everyone should do. Now, in order to have someone review you on Google, you have to have your website listed. You have to be on what's called Google Maps. And there's a whole process for being able to do that. But honestly, the Google the Google reviews make a huge difference and benefit your firm with SEO. Plus, it's great. You can copy them, you can use them. And I know financial advisors can't do this, but attorneys and other professionals can use their Google reviews right on their website, and there's a lot that you can do with them. So I encourage you to look at Google reviews. As I mentioned before, it doesn't necessarily apply to financial advisors, and in some states, I believe maybe even the state of Florida, does not allow lawyers to have actual testimonials on their website. The most important takeaway here is that you need to keep your finger on the pulse of how satisfied your clients are with you, why they hire you, why they're happy they did hire you, because we know happy, satisfied clients are likely to refer clients to you in the future. Okay, for anyone who's ever heard one of our webinars, you've probably heard me talk about the E-Myth. And the E-Myth is one of the best books to help you get your arms around what you need to do to best serve your clients. One of the things that this book discusses is how important it is for you to develop your systems and processes, the XYZ firm way of doing things. The goal here is to create replicable processes so that the knowledge doesn't lie with one person who may not come in tomorrow, and then what happens? So it's all about making sure that your systems and processes are in place for how you run your practice, because ultimately what you want to do is you want to work on your practice. And I talk to my clients about this all the time. You're a business owner, you're out on your own, maybe you left a larger firm and you're now an entrepreneur. If you spend all of your time working and serving clients, and that sounds like something you should do, but honestly, if you don't step above that and take some time to work on the continued growth of your practice, you're going to realize, as the E-Myth talks about, you are really just owning a crazy job. So next, let's take a look at something very important under Pillar 1, and that is cross-marketing. We encourage our clients to create a spreadsheet like this. Take a look at the names. This is our little nod to Game of Thrones, if any of you are fans, but we put some sample clients down the left-hand side. We then, for column heads, put the type of services that, in this case, our firm would offer. So Everyone, for example, who goes through a divorce needs to have an estate plan. So this is a nice way for you to keep track of, do we have a resource that we can either refer business to or someone within our own firm? It's amazing how many clients don't realize that you have this plethora of services until after they've gone out and hired another professional to do what you or your firm could have done for them. Even if you're a solo practitioner, it's still challenging to make sure that clients know the broad range of your services because they're working with you on something and they tend to think that's all you do. Another point here on this slide is that there are many people who go through a divorce in this case, but also own businesses. And I've worked with firms who have very successfully been able to leverage the divorce client and continue to have a relationship with them into the future, handling all their business matters. So cross-marketing is about ensuring that you are fully serving the needs of your existing clients and that they have an understanding of the breadth and depth of the services that you provide. One thing we did with another client is we created what we called a client services directory, but really it was a cross-marketing directory. So basically what we did was we identified the summary of the individual, the different areas of service that they offer. We did a couple of things with this client services directory and it looked beautiful. Our designer created it and it just looked, the branding was lovely. And what we did with this is, number one, we gave this document, this beautiful document, to everybody in the firm because many times people in your own firm don't realize, oh, I didn't know you did this type of service. So we gave it to everybody in the law firm. We sent it to all of the law firm's clients so that they had a quick guide reference document for seeing who they should talk to if certain issues came up. But the other thing we did with this is we sent it to members of the media who we were trying to develop relationships with. So media members are always looking for people they can quote. So if you are reminding them about the breadth and depth of experience that you have at your firm, it's likely that they are going to call you. That's just one piece of a PR strategy. But that's just one thing that you can use and deploy 3 or 4 different ways. So now let's talk a little bit about referral source development. I like to just roll up my sleeves and boil it down to what do you need to do to take the next step in terms of building your referral sources. What I tell my clients is take a look at a list of your clients over the past 2 years. Have your admin or whomever, if it's you, run that QuickBooks report and find out who you really did work with over the last 2 or 3 years. And then identify who referred those clients to you. It may have been other satisfied clients. You may realize that you have a referral source that you didn't realize was so consistently sending clients to you. Another very important tip here is that when you start working with a new client, make sure that you know who referred them. Note it somewhere so that you can do this type of an analysis. Because what we're trying to say is if you already have a great base of referral sources who are referring clients to you, then let's keep that spigot open. So after you've identified who these clients are, who these referral sources are, stay in touch with them. Make sure you're thanking them when they do send you a referral. Schedule lunch or coffee with them. Find out more about what they do because you always want these referral source relationships to be reciprocal. You don't want to be that professional who always wants referrals but then never turns around and gives referrals. So it's very, very important that it's a two-way street. And also don't lose touch. How many times have you had somebody call you or text you or send you a message on LinkedIn or an email and say, hey, how are you? Gee, I haven't talked to you for a while. Well, then what do you realize? You think, okay, they want something from me. They fell out of a tree. I haven't heard from them in years. And it just doesn't feel as comfortable for me as the person that they might be calling. And hopefully it's a little uncomfortable for them too. So be the person who doesn't lose touch with people who are valuable and important to you. And this is something that I think everyone in business should do. You have clients. Many times they have other advisors. That means you have a client in common. So I'm using a law firm example. So you have a business client. That business is going to have an accountant, a banker, maybe a consultant. And you're maybe going to realize that, gee, there's an industry connection here because this accounting firm also does other work with manufacturers. So the point here is, and then you could obviously get more involved in the manufacturing industry, but determine who your client's other advisors are. If you're a financial advisors and estate planning attorneys, they're like a hand-in-glove, obvious referral source to one another. So are therapists for family law attorneys. So it isn't that you have to, if you're marketing primarily to consumers, you just simply have to look at who else a consumer might have in their pipeline of other professionals that they work with, and make sure that you don't forget about those very important client in common types of professionals. So let's move into pillar number 2 and talk about some of the strategies for developing new business. Now, you're not going to be surprised when networking is up here, right? Because everyone knows that you have to get out and network. However, if I were speaking in front of you, I would ask for a show of hands. How many of you looking at this picture feel the sweat dripping down your back and the fight or flight response of get me out of here? I might just happen to have a lot of introverted clients, but I'll tell you, there are other ways that you can successfully do networking. Now, my business partner, Christy, on the other hand, she is in her element in an environment like this. Christy will go up and talk to anybody, and she'll use her great sales skills, and she'll ask questions. But for a lot of people, we have to just kind of ease into it a little bit more. So when you're thinking about, I need to do some networking, I want the process to be refined, and I also want it to be easy for you. You can do extremely effective networking one-on-one. You don't just always have to go out and put yourself into group environments like this. In fact, quite honestly, I think a targeted approach to networking can be much more genuine, therefore much more successful, because all of the people in a group like this are trying to meet other people and give their business cards. And, you know, how can you really set yourself apart when every other person in the room is trying to do the same thing? So I think one-on-one networking is great, but you want to look at your best clients, contacts, and referral sources. And one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to weave relationship building throughout everything you do. It's not as if, well, I'm a little slow this week, so Friday afternoon I've taken an hour and blocked it off on my calendar for networking. We all know that you can't do networking like that. It's something that you have to think about all the time. I had a coaching client a few years ago who told me that the most important thing that he learned from me and from our work together is to do something every day to build your practice. It might be just making a call to someone and saying, gee, I haven't talked to you, or sending someone a LinkedIn request, but you're doing something little every single day. That's where you can use the 40 strategies you can do in 5 minutes or less. Because if you consistently do those things over time, you will be successful. You have to move beyond thinking, I need big blocks of time in order to do this marketing stuff and do it well. Also, again, as I touched on before, you want to stay in touch with your best clients. And if you do the first suggestion and identify your, let's say, top 10 clients, prospective clients, referral sources, it's going to be a lot easier to put yourself on a path to stay in touch with 25 people as opposed to your 700 LinkedIn contacts. That's overwhelming, and you probably won't end up doing it. There's so much more on networking. We have, if you haven't been to our website and looked in the archive of our different webinars, we have whole webinars on networking and all the things that we're talking about under the various pillars of marketing. So if something sounds interesting to you, make sure you visit the PSM website and check out our archive of webinars. So let's move into another tool for new business development, and this is what we call targeted business development. This means you want to develop a relationship with someone that you know you would be a good fit for. They just don't happen to know you yet. So one of the things that you can do is to think about what your best clients have in common. We're not trying to limit your practice, but we are trying to say, in this example, do you seem to attract physicians? Do you have a lot of people who are in the healthcare industry? Well, the reality is, whatever your service, people are going to feel more comfortable hiring you if they know you have a lot of other clients like them. It's perception versus reality. The reality is you can probably do your work with just about anybody, and their industry or profession doesn't make a big difference. But the perception with clients is that if you know me and you know my industry, you're going to be a better resource for me. So think about what your best clients have in common, and then identify how you're going to interact with these groups. It's very important. So if you realize, gee, I really am doing a lot of work with physicians. Physicians are a difficult group. It's almost like a closed society. But we have a few clients who have had a lot of physicians as clients, and we figured out ways to stay in front of them. One way is to find opportunities to write articles that are going to be of interest to them so that you can get in front of them in a little bit more of a passive way. But the key here is to think about what your best clients have in common, and if you could clone one of your clients, or 10, what is it that you value most about those relationships? Because you then, as I mentioned, want to identify these creative ways to get in front of groups. One of the things we're going to touch on briefly is how to do advanced searches on LinkedIn. Lawyers, for example, can't just go out and start building relationships and directly soliciting people that they want to do business with. So that's why I said you have to identify creative ways to get in front of these groups. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to our page on LinkedIn. Okay, so anyone who knows me, Terrie, knows that I'm a zealot for market research. And maybe that's a bad name, and I should think of something better to call it. But I'll tell you what, if you're going to go out and meet with someone or talk to someone on the phone who could either refer business to you or become a client, you need to do your research. It's basic research. I encourage you to go to their LinkedIn profile. Remember, what you're looking for here are areas of commonality. You're trying to see that, oh my goodness, they went to St. Olaf too. They went to the same college I did. You're looking for ways you can see through what's out there publicly if there's something that you already have in common with this person. On LinkedIn, you can also see the contacts that you have in common, which I find interesting because I'll realize that someone I'm going to meet with, I might have 23 people that I'm connected to who also know this person. I look at that and I say, good, that's a great thing. Because if necessary, you could always talk to a couple of those contacts and say, hey, I'm really trying to build a relationship with this person. And do you have any tips for me in terms of wanting to do that? Go to their website, read their firm's website, read their biography on their website. Finally, do a Google search for their name or for their firm. You might realize in doing that they were just featured in a Star Tribune article or in Twin Cities Business. You're not going to have the time to go searching through a library to find this information. So use the technology that's in front of you and see if you can find out, because what you're trying to do is to be able to ask great questions when you get in front of them, because we all know, and anyone who's attended our webinar on sales skills in general knows, that the key to sales for professionals is asking brilliant questions, showing people that you know them, you know their business by asking great questions. And then again, you're looking for commonalities. I actually have gone so far, if it's a really big client that I really want to land, I'll show up at the first meeting with, I know it sounds old-fashioned, but with a 3-ring binder of the printed out stuff that I found when I was doing market research. And I'll put a cover on that 3-ring binder that says background research on XYZ firm. And I am getting myself undiscombobulated or putting things out on the table as we're ready to get started. Every single time I've done that, I pull that binder out and I just kind of take it out and set it aside. That is the first thing. They're like, oh, what's that? What is that? Did you do this? And I let them know that I would never think of going to a meeting and wasting their time by asking them questions that are out there. So this is part of my practice, is that I do research before I meet with a client. They'll be blown away. They will absolutely be blown away. Another really good new business development tool can be found in joining and becoming active in trade and professional associations. What do you need to do? You need to join an association that attracts your best clients or referral sources. Many times lawyers will be very involved in the bar association, and it's a good thing because it's professional and it's collegiality. And I'll tell you what, lawyers get a lot of business from other lawyers. But the ultimate goal is getting in front of the people who have the ability to send business to you or to refer clients to you. And trade associations can be a fabulous way to do that, but just know that you, in making that commitment to an association, you need to go and attend the meetings. I've worked with so many clients who have dabbled in trade associations only to say, yeah, I went to a couple meetings and, you know, we really didn't get anything out of it, so I decided it wasn't worth our while. Well, the members of the trade association are on to people like that who say, well, I'm in here to generate business, and if I don't do it in 2 meetings, I'm out of here. Trade association strategies are mid-range to longer term. They're not the quick hit. They're not the low-hanging fruit. You're making a commitment to a group, and you have to attend their meetings. You also have the opportunity as an active member to write for their publication. Write on things that are timely and relevant that this group cares about and that's important to them. Then, as a highly regarded member, you're also going to have opportunities to speak at their monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, annual conference. Remember that your goal is not just the divide and conquer of meeting people one at a time. It's really becoming an active, engaged part of that association and taking the opportunities, making the opportunities for yourself by talking to the executive director about how can I speak at a monthly meeting. I always encourage my clients, if you're going to get involved, and I would have added this bullet if I had time, but I just reminded myself of this, you also want to join a committee because, for example, if you're on the new member committee or if you're on the programming committee, you're already positioned to not just meet new members, but to discuss what the upcoming programming should be. Obviously, you're not just going to be like, oh, I can speak, you're doing this in a very professional way. But there are just unlimited ways in which you can use trade associations to really build and grow your practice with people who can hire you and refer you. Okay, let's move on to pillar number 3. I love pillar number 3, increasing name recognition and awareness. So let's just start with the thing that I'm always harping on my clients to do more of, and that is social media. You always want to connect with people you know on LinkedIn. And I know it sounds simple, and probably what it requires is for you to have LinkedIn running on your computer so that as you're going through your day, you're thinking, I wonder if I'm connected to that person I just spoke to on LinkedIn. Christy and I always tell our clients you want to have over 500 contacts. And there's nobody at all I know who's listening to this webinar who doesn't have 500 people that they know. Their past colleagues, their current colleagues, their clients, people in the community. You've got the contacts. But unless you make it a priority to say, I want to have over 500 contacts on LinkedIn, it's probably not going to happen because you have to proactively go to LinkedIn, search for their name, and then connect with them. I also want you, regarding social media, to post regularly on your profile. When you're looking at LinkedIn and you're scrolling through the news feed, you can actually find some really interesting things that people have posted. And when you do, comment on them, like them, engage with the people that you're connected to, because they will see that and it will cause them to say, oh yeah, Christy Gusick, I kind of forgot about Christy. Not that anyone could ever really forget about Christy, but you know what I'm saying. If you're out there on LinkedIn, spend some time adding connections, but also spend some time commenting on and engaging on LinkedIn. And as I mentioned before, really the best thing you can do is to make this part of your day. I can't say from this time to this time every single day, do social media. It doesn't work that way. You have to be cognizant of how important social media is to helping you increase your name recognition and make it a part of who you are. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to start with LinkedIn. There's nothing wrong with Facebook, but Facebook is more the backyard barbecue. I learned this from Christy and I loved it, so I use it now whenever I talk about the difference between LinkedIn and Facebook. Facebook is the backyard barbecue. You wear your sunglasses, it's casual, you're with your friends and your family, whereas LinkedIn is that trade association meeting or that chamber of commerce meeting. It's where you're your professional self. So, but my point is, make social media a part of your day. And if you're a firm, not only should you have a Facebook page for yourself personally and your personal LinkedIn, but you need to have company pages. These do not meld or mingle your contacts unless you choose to do that. I have a lot of people who don't want to have a Facebook company profile, yet they market to individuals because they think somehow people are going to be able to see their personal posts, and that's not the case. So if you are in a firm or you own a firm, make sure that you have a company profile on LinkedIn and on Facebook. But that's not all. You also have to post on it. You have to make a commitment to post on social media. Now, another thing that we've got a couple of really great examples, but blogging is absolutely one of the best ways for you to build your name recognition and awareness. Now you're thinking, great, Terrie, I do a blog post, it sits on my website, nobody mentions it. Well, you're missing 9/10 of what you need to do when you write a blog post. Number one, you need to, first of all, use the worksheet that I provided for you, because it literally makes blogging a multi-step process. First you do this, you think about your audience. Next you identify the topic that will be relevant to that audience. And so this worksheet literally helps you be able to create a bit of a habit around how to write good blog posts. So I just wanted to share an example with you because this is one of our clients, Schaefer Helene. Now, people who've been watching the news know that the big news yesterday was that Bill O'Reilly from Fox News was terminated. And I followed up with my client, Larry Schaefer, who is an absolutely amazing blogger and a prolific writer. And I said, Larry, Bill O'Reilly just got fired. You need to do a blog post. So what did Larry do? He wrote this amazing blog post about how this termination underscores the importance of enforcing zero tolerance policies against sexual harassment. A couple of weeks ago, well, I guess it was April 13th, I went to an event with Larry Schaefer and Tony Helene, and we actually shared a table. Well, he was so compelled at having attended this 2017 Women in Leadership luncheon and symposium that he went back to the office on his own. I didn't even have to ask him to do this, and he wrote a blog post. So what do we do? As I mentioned before, number one, you use your blog posting worksheet, but then post a link to the blog post you wrote on social media. You need to drive people to your blog post that you've written. If your firm does any type of an e-communication, you can include the blog post. And every time we do that, the blogs are, because we have analytics, and the blogs are always the top most highly read pages. So don't feel like your blog is going to fall into a black hole. It only will if you let it. You can also post on LinkedIn, post on your company page, get the blog out there. Finally, a lot of people don't think of this, but PR is also a very, very positive way to build your name recognition. And if you've been doing a lot of writing on certain topics, you can use the compilation of your blog posts as a pitch to say, this is how I write. Here's an example of my writing style, or here's a great story that I'd love to have you interview me for. So we're going to step into branding. You can tell I get all excited when I talk about social media because it really does work. It just takes your time and your consistency to participate. So branding is also really important. And what I like to ask my clients is, really take a look at your brand, your website, your materials, your letterhead, and yes, how you dress. I did a whole article for Attorney at Law last month on the importance of dressing like a professional, like the professional that people expect you to be. So take a look at your overall brand and then ask yourself, would I hire me? If I look at this, trying to be as objective as possible, would you hire you? And if the answer is no, it's probably time to look at a branding refresh. You can't take something that was cutting edge 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and think that it's still going to carry you through today. So you have to ensure that your brand reflects the true sophistication that you bring to your clients. Nobody wants to think that they're throwing money away at marketing. But Christy and I are here to tell you that branding is part of your first impression. It's what people see when they meet you. It's what they see when they go to your website or you hand them a business card. So please make branding an important part of your strategy. Christy has something to add.
Our last webinar that we did is actually on branding, and so if you want to go to the archives, you can look at that. There's also a brand audit check sheet where you can audit your own brand that we can send you if anybody's listening and wants that. Just let us know in the evaluation.
That's a great idea, and we do that for our clients. That's, we love to share the things that work best for our clients, and because you're a select group of people who care enough to listen to us for 45 minutes, we make these things available to you free of charge. So let us know if you want us to send you that branding worksheet. Let's move to what I kind of alluded to before, which is public relations. Now, again, I was talking about how blog posts can be used to show people that you're a good writer and show the way you think and the way you write. The biggest benefit of public relations is that if you're featured or quoted in an article, you have the third-party credibility of that media outlet, quote unquote, endorsing you. So if you're quoted in the Star Tribune, if you're quoted in your daily paper, if you're quoted in anything, that publication is basically saying, we have identified you as an expert on this topic and we would like to quote you. So it's a wonderful way to get that third-party credibility. There's so much you can do with stories that you either have written or have been quoted in. But what you need to also think about is watching for the reporters who cover stories in your area. So when I called Larry Schaefer and said, Larry, you need to do that, Bill O'Reilly was fired, you need to do a blog, I paid special attention to the reporters locally who were covering that topic, because it's highly likely if they're covering that topic about workplace sexual harassment, that they do other stories similar to that. So you need to watch for those reporters, listen to radio stations that you think you might like to be on, and you have to make your story pitch relevant to them. When you reach out and you say, gee, you did a great story in the Sunday paper, but you missed a couple of things, and I'd love to tell you, just inform you about what those things are. Chances are at some point they'll do a follow-up story and they will quote you. Okay, another great way to increase your name recognition and awareness is through community involvement. So I'd like you to consider serving on a nonprofit board doing volunteer work. I'll tell you what, nonprofit boards love having professionals, whether they're financial advisors or lawyers or any other kind of a professional services expert. Boards love to have you on their board. I've been on boards, and why? Because I'm a marketing person and they love to have that marketing and client service and expertise on their board. So consider serving on a nonprofit board. Just make sure it's something that you're really committed to. Because what ends up happening is you go to the meetings, you read the board materials, you're prepared, you ask great questions, you show them you care, and it really carries over into your professional life. And they're just simply going to assume that if you're a great board member, which you would be, or you wouldn't do it, you are obviously a great lawyer, a great financial advisor, a great consultant. So consider how that community involvement can truly benefit you in your business. Now let's just jump into the last few slides that I have here on pillar number 4, which is targeted communications, or more specifically, it's targeted and effective communications. So how do we effectively communicate with our clients? First of all, I encourage you to break your contacts down into different groups. I want you to think about information that is really going to be relevant to that group. I tell my clients, gone are the days of firm newsletters. We actually have a client who will not be named. At this point, we're just getting started with them, and they still do printed newsletters, and they send those out to 6,000 people that they've had on their database for 25 years. But my belief, and Christie's, is that that is not an effective communication strategy, because you need to be timely and you need to be relevant. Mass communications just don't cut it, because people see your communication and they're looking through it to say, well, what is relevant to me? And if there isn't something, they're just going to pass it, throw it away, delete it. So the key here is communicate more often, but with less people. If you have a targeted group of 25 people who are all great prospective clients or referral sources, it's okay to come up with something and communicate with just those 25 people. So you might wonder, well, how do you do that? Well, we have a couple of programs that we use for our clients. We work with MailChimp, we work with Constant Contact. And they're simple, they're easy to use, they have tiered pricing. Both of them have a free option, but they have tiered pricing based on the number of contacts you have. Even if you have 2,500 to 5,000 contacts, I think I just checked on this MailChimp is like $40 a month. So it is not cost prohibitive to have a program like this. One of the things that's really, really important, so assuming you have the ability to go out and create a MailChimp account or a Constant Contact account, there's some really important tips that I'd like to share with you. First of all, you should first download your lists, whether it's Outlook or any other list that you have, into a spreadsheet. You never ever want to buy lists and add them to your database. You could be marked as a spammer. One thing you can do that we love doing with our clients is you can import, or I should say export, LinkedIn contacts and then upload them into your program. By and large, those contacts are really good. They're current, they're people that you know, you've already linked in with them. So that's a great way to build a MailChimp or a Constant Contact database in a hurry. Then you want to, as you're looking at this Excel spreadsheet of all your contacts, you want to make sure that you're coding them and putting an X in a box so that you can create a field for maybe their type of profession, their industry, or some other identifier that's going to make it easier for you to communicate just with that group. And you really want to verify your list. We're dealing with this right now with a client who had probably 4,000 contacts. Some of them were added in 2007, and we had to tell him, we just can't import these contacts unless you know all of these people, because the worst thing that could happen is that you could get marked as a spammer. And this can be kind of a disastrous thing, because not only can you not send anything through either MailChimp or Constant Contact again, but they'll actually blacklist. They have done this before. They've blacklisted the actual info at or the client's email address. So I'm not trying to scare you to death, but you definitely want to make sure that you develop your list and then check it twice. How's that? All right, let's talk briefly about how important it is to have a great website. Christy and I have talked about this many times. We've done webinars on this. Take a look at your own website. If it makes you cringe because you're like, oh, I really need to do this, have your website redone. Talk to people who do websites. Talk to us. We do websites. It's so important to have a fabulous looking website. It's your #1 marketing tool. Remember that your website is not out there to directly generate clients for you, but if you have a bad website, people are probably not going to pay you much mind and they're just going to move on to the next website. The last slide I have is about how important it is to mingle with your clients. Have a special event every once in a while. So for example, if you move into new office space, think about having a reception and inviting your clients and referral sources. If you're going to a trade show, take some of your clients to dinner who will also likely be at that event. If you want to just celebrate summer, you can do something like taking your clients out on a boat or having a picnic. It's important to mingle with your clients because they're the people who are going to likely refer business to you and hopefully continue working with you. As you can tell, we're very into webinars, and we think it's a great way to share information. So in terms of targeted and effective communications, I think we've given you a lot of really good ideas. It is exactly, as promised, 11:45, and we would really like to thank you. Let me just see here quickly. I was talking so fast, nobody even had time to ask a question, but Christy and I are always available to talk with you. You can send us an email. We love brainstorming. Like we tell our clients, we don't charge to brainstorm. So if there's something you want to talk to us about, feel free to give us a call or send us an email, and we will reach out to you. So with that, we would like to thank you for attending today's webinar, and we'll let you know that it is going to be posted up on our website as well in case you want to share it with someone who wasn't able to attend. So we do have an evaluation, Christy mentioned. At the end, when I exit out of this program, an evaluation will pop up. If you miss it, there will be a link to the evaluation in the communication that you get saying thank you for attending our webinar. So we would love your feedback. It'll take you 30 seconds, so please complete the evaluation, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a great afternoon, and thanks again for joining us.